Good morning, everyone. Perek Daled, Mishna Daled. As we learned previously, you can send a messenger, an agent, to separate Truma for you. So I made a shluchai, one who tells his messenger, his agent, Tzei Usraim, go and take off Truma for me. But he didn't tell him how much to take off. As we've learned, the sages instituted a three possible choices for separating Truma, 1/40th, 1/50th, 1/60th. And this person didn't get any instructions exactly how to take off the Truma. So the Mishnah says, Tairem Kedaito Shabalabayis. You separate the Truma according to the mindset of the homeowner. The homeowner is the person who owns the grain. The agent is the one who is sent to separate the grain for him, to separate the Truma for him. And we're the first choice where there was no instructions given how much to take. So the Mishnah says that the agent has to basically look at the person he's dealing with and see if he's a generous person, then you'll take off 1/40th. If he's an average, 1/50th. And if he's miserly, 1/60th. That's what it means. You separate according to the mindset. You have to look at the person who sent you, see what kind of person he is, and separate accordingly. The Mishnah continues, but if he doesn't know the mindset of the homeowner, it just has no mindset. He doesn't know what kind of person he is. He then separates like the average person 1/50th. Most people fall into the average, and if that's what most people fall into, and you don't have any other way of evaluating this person, you'll follow the fact that most people are average and follow the average when it comes to giving Truma. And they do the average amount, and that's the amount that you do. Piches asara haisef asara. Now, let's say it comes out that he did. The translation is he subtracted 10. That means that if we just mentioned taking off a 50th, if he subtracted 10, means if he subtracted 10 units of produce from which the Truma is separated from, which means if he went from 1/50th, he went down to 1/40th. He just subtracted 10 units of what was mentioned before. That means he's giving a 40th. Or he added 10 more units, which means he did 1/60th. And it emerges that the owner is, in fact, a 1/50th person. The halacha is the Truma is still a good Truma. And that's because that being that the homeowner did not give any instructions to this person how to separate Truma, so to some degree he's telling him, I leave it up to you. If you don't tell him what to do, that means you're leaving it up to him, or you're leaving it up to him to figure out. So as long as this person worked within the standards of which the sage has set up for setting aside Truma, then he's okay. He was given permission to separate according to the way he perceives things, which he did, and the perception, and he did separate according to the standards of the sages. Therefore, his Truma is a good Truma. In the Skaven, now, if let's say it comes out that the agent actually did less or even more than what the sages say, meaning he did even more than a 40th, or he did even less than a 60th. Then already we say the agent, what he did was no good. At that point of time, we already say that the homeowner never made him an agent to separate, not according to the standards of the sages. And therefore, if he doesn't even abide by the standards of the sages, if he doesn't abide by any of the standards of the sages, and what the Chachamim sages set up, then already that means he's gone beyond he's gone beyond his designation. He's gone beyond his how do we say it? He's gone beyond his powers. He's gone beyond what he was sent to do. And therefore, what he did would not be good. Okay. Then the Mishnah says, Im niskaben lohaisef afilu achas. Now let's say the case is where the agent knows who the Balabayas is. He knows he's the 50th guy. And he went ahead and he added one more. That means instead of taking one out of 50, he took 1 out of 51. or the opposite. He took 1 out of 49. Once he intentionally deviates from what the homeowner's intent is, and he knows that he's doing that, then we say, Ein Truma Se Truma. His Truma is not a good Truma. That's where he knows that this person is a 1/50th. So he went ahead and he added another, even with one more unit, 51. He added one more unit to what he knows he's supposed to be doing, or takes one less than what he knows he's supposed to be. He takes out one less than what he's supposed to be doing. At that point, we say his Truma is not a good Truma. It's no good. He intentionally went against, not with what he knows about the homeowner's intent is, and therefore we say his Truma is no good. Now, this is an interesting idea to say that in these cases his Truma is no good, because think about it. So the average is 1/50th. The average is one. This person does the average. He does 1/50th. You knew that. So what did you do? You went ahead and you added one more unit, which means you basically took less than what you're supposed to. You separated less than you're supposed to. You haven't reached 1/50th of the total of the total amount of units that was being separated for. So you did less than what you're supposed to do. All right. But at the end of the day, you went ahead and you at least did a good part of what he wanted you to do. So you didn't do 100% what he wanted. And to go ahead and finish up, it can be finished up afterwards. We had that before. You could go ahead and finish it up afterwards. If it comes out, you took less. Remember, we had that yesterday. You ended up taking less than you were supposed to. So you finish it up. So why over here can't we say that, he didn't do, he went against what the Baal Habayis typically does. But it's not like what he did isn't part of what the Baal Habayis wanted him to do. So why can't it work at least for that amount? Or let's say he did more. Let's say he took out, instead of doing 1/50th, he did 1 out of 49. Okay, so we should say the extra amount he didn't have permission to do, but the amount that does equal 1/50th, which is what the Baal Habayis typically does, he did. So why can't it work? So that's a question that the commentaries ask. It would seem like we're saying, well, once he goes against the Baal Habayis, once he goes against the homeowner, he's out. He's out. He knows what the Baal Habayis wants. He went against it. He's out. That's what it seems like. But that's not so simple to say. So one explanation that's given is that it's true. That you're right. It makes sense to say that according to what he did, which was within what the Baal Habayis typically does, it makes sense. It should work. There's only one problem. The problem is that, for instance, let's say he took 1 out of 51. Okay, so you want to say that the 1/50th he took care of, and then we're going to have to do a little bit more to finish it up. Problem with that is that if that's what we're doing, so then we have a mixture here. We have a problematic mixture. He separated Truma. Part of the pile is fixed. That which corresponds to the 1/50th is fixed. What corresponds to the 1/50th that he took, that's fixed. But there's still a little bit more left that has to be fixed. And he didn't separate Truma for that. Or he couldn't separate Truma for that. Well, he didn't separate Truma for that. Okay, so that means we have here some Chul and some Tevel. That's not good. Because we don't know which one is which means that they have to go ahead and now fix up a little bit that's left. The Baal Habayis has to now go to another pile that is Tevel and separate from there for this. And let's say in the other case, where he went and he took 1 out of 49. So he took more than he was supposed to. Okay. So that means that what? That means that the amount that he was supposed to separate is fixed. And the amount that he took more of, what happened to that? That was never fixed, because by him, that was part of the Truma. So he never took Truma for it. So if you tell me that Truma, that part of his Truma doesn't work, then it's Tevel. And again, we have a mixture of tevel and chulin. So therefore, in this case, we're not going to say, well, let it work at least according to how much he did, which does conform with what the Baal Habayis typically does, because he's not helping the Baal Habayis then. He's only making him a big headache of having a mixture of chulin and tevel. And an agent is never made an agent to make problems for the person who sent him. And therefore, the Mishnah says that if he intended to add even one more, or so too to subtract one more, which means, again, he knew the intent of, he knows what the Baal Habayis does, and he went against it, even a small amount, his truma is not a truma. Okay. Prohibition against being intimate with the wife of one's father. As it says, you shall not be intimate with the wife of your father. Even if she is not his mother. If this woman is the wife of his father, whether she was his wife only at the first stage of marriage, erisin. We have, when you put the ring on the woman's finger, that's called erisin. At that point, she's your wife, but you can't deal with her completely as a wife until you do chuppah, which is called nesuin, the completion of the marriage. So beimina erisin, beimina nesuin, whether she was his wife only from erisin or completely because they went through nesuin together, beimachaya av, whether this is happening when the father is still alive, beimla achamisasa av, whether it's after the father died, and even if he divorced her, meaning even if she's not married to his father anymore. Nonetheless, she's prohibited. When we libel, we witnesses and warning for skila, without witnesses, intentionally with the punishment of kares, divine severance of life. And if he did it unintentionally, did it always forbidden, chatas, he would be bring a sin offering. Now, like we had yesterday, the sages added other relatives that were also going to be forbidden. So now, if the Torah starts off with the person's father's wife, okay, the Chachamim always add to that line. And what do they do here? Ushnias b'divrei seifrim, and the second level, arayas, forbidden marriages through forbidden relatives, that were instituted by the sages, goes like this, okay? Eishes avi aviv, okay, meaning the eila hepsek ad lamala, and it continues up. That means we're starting off with his father's wife, right? Included, the sages added his grandfather's wife, his great-grandfather's wife, his great-great-grandfather's wife. I mean, going up the line from the father. His fathers, the wives of his fathers, to all the way back, where very far can possibly go, is going to be forbidden midrabanan, according to Rabbinic law. Now, we've been talking about now, the wife of his father. Added on, the Eishes Avi Imoy Bovad, added on is the wife of his mother's father. The Torah talks about the wife of his father. The sages added the wife of his mother's father to this. Bilvad. And that's where it stops. Doesn't go up from there. It is only the wife of his maternal grandfather that the Chachamim added. These were the second level forbidden relatives that they added to the Torah's prohibition of one's father's wife. Have a wonderful day. Just want to let everybody know that there will be an email being sent out, but there will not be a class tomorrow morning. So no class tomorrow morning. We'll resume on Friday morning. Have a great day.